A deal on Dickens, who could resist? A stack of Austen, warmly kissed. Golden Age crime tales twist and turn. Every page a treasure to learn. Books keep coming home with me. Piles so tall, they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.
Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. I have a guest.
Hi, I'm Marlicia Muses, but I'm from Marlicia's Meanderings.
And this is my mom. We have just finished doing our our monthly knitting and crocheting video on that channel. We used to do it weekly, which is why I stumbled a little bit. It just got to be too much to do weekly, though.
Right.
But we've just finished that. We figured, hey, we had the setup already. Let's go ahead and just take advantage of it. There's going to be a video going up on her channel, and that'll be the booktube newbie tag. And then we've got this one. So I was tagged by Gavin from Genre Books. This tag was created by Elena Monti, and I had done some research on someone else's channel, and I believe that he had said that this was from the Italian side of BookTube, but that's what I understand. So this is a very open-ended tag, and basically the idea is that you talk about the authors that made us readers. So, and then also someone else, Stuart Griffin, who I believe is actually who tagged Gavin, he had piggybacked on that another tag, which was Reading Books About Reading tag. And that was created by Robert G., Reader of Books, R3P. I think I follow him. I'll have to see. So I've added those prompts as well. So if we have time, we will be piggybacking that on there as well. I've watched most of Gavin's video. I still need to watch Stuart's, but I really enjoyed the prompts that he listed in his video. So we'll be going into this tag blind, and then I'll watch his video later. First, I guess, let's go ahead and talk about the authors that made us readers. So we can go through the times of life, together. We can start from, the beginning, which we don't necessarily have to go like beginning, because I don't think either of us really remember when we started reading. So let's say, I know Gavin started like when he kind of felt like he chose to read books. And the earliest ones I kind of feel like I remember choosing to read were like Nancy Drew's and Hardy Boys, even though those kind of felt like they were a little bit more of your choices. The ones I began to choose, and I collected like crazy, were the Boxcar Children. I did the Babysitter's Club and the American Girls, and I know there were other ones of that ilk, but my big, I had a ton. I don't even know what happened to them all. I had a huge collection, and I had the specials, the Christmas specials. I had, basically, when they came out, I would get them. I had I knew which one. So that was my thing at that time period.
Well, early on for me, even before Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys, which was a really big thing, them and Beverly Gray and Encyclopedia Brown, all those kind of mysteries. Before that even was Madeleine L'Engle's Wrinkle in Time.
That came later for me.
And just Wrinkle in Time, not the rest of the series, Wrinkle in Time. And Jack London's To Build a Fire, White Fang, Call of the Wild, Edgar Allan Poe's Telltale Heart. I had some fantastic teachers in my 5th and 6th grade years who would read to us, after you come in from recess, we would be all, hepped up. So they would sit down for about 15 minutes and they would read to us, and we would color or whatever. And they read these books. And when they read these books, I wanted to go out and get them from the library.
5th, 6th grade, I always forget that's about what?
10.
Okay, because I actually started doing, when I'm kind of Boxcar Children, that's before I turned 10.
Yeah, but see, I didn't go for Boxcar Children. When I went to Nancy Drew's and stuff, it was about this time period.
Okay. I just want, because you said before that, to build a fire and stuff, which is why I was a little confused.
It was before, but not much.
Okay, because I was going to say, because if you're talking about that 10-ish age group, then you're missing a period of time.
Yeah, I don't...
You might not remember that.
I don't remember the books I started picking out because my parents read with us all the time. And we would read like JFK biographies. We would read all kinds of stuff. And I don't remember those as much. But when I really wanted to go get books from the library was 5th and 6th grade was when it started because these two teachers really instilled a love of reading for me. Even though my parents read to me all the time and I loved reading, it clicked.
And I'm sure it's something to do with the homeschooling. Maybe made Davina and I start a little bit earlier, and also neither of us were terribly athletic. You were quite athletic. Neither of us ever were. So I know that you had to basically drag me out, and even then, I'd want to pull something out with me because, yeah,
I would read all the time, but I was also very much into music and outdoors and all that kind of stuff. So it was a little bit, but I did read all the time.
Also, I forgot to mention, my nonfiction started about the same time as the Boxcar Children, whereas I started looking at, I read a lot about snakes, how to care for snakes, just about them in general. In order to get some things about snakes, sometimes I ended up picking up stuff about other amphibians. Not amphibians, those are reptiles. It was a reptile amphibian book. That's why I said amphibians. But I would prefer to get them about reptiles. I'd even prefer more to get it about snakes specifically.
Well, my nonfiction about the same time was dogs. Everybody else wanted horses, so I didn't want horses.
That's why I chose snakes.
I wanted dogs.
Everyone else wanted dogs and cats and horses and stuff, so I wanted snakes.
I wanted dogs, and nobody was doing dogs, and I went really deep diving into dogs, and I also love rocks. You know, gemstones.
I never could really get into them.
I really archaeology.
Even though I had a rock collection.
Yeah, we did. You might hear some noise. My other daughter's coming in the house. Gemstones, going places where you can get gypsum and all the gold rush, all that kind of stuff. Archaeology.
So now we're skipping ahead a little bit. So about 10, 11, that's when I received my first Agatha Christie. No more Boxcar Children after that point. As obsessively as I collected Boxcar Children, I started doing Agatha Christie. And I have some great memories of the base library at Bowling, because we were Air Force. They had this reference room where nobody ever went.
It used to be a safe.
Did it really? I really loved it because no one ever went there. So I would grab whatever Agatha Christie I had, which if you've seen several of my Agatha Christies, those black bound, really pretty Agatha Christies, those were our library, like not those, but that's what our library Agatha Christies looked like. So I'd take a pile of them, go back there and read. And actually, because where I liked to read, where it was in the back, that's also where the Cliff Notes were. And that's how I got exposed first to Chaucer. For
Canterbury Tales.
Yes, so that was my first exposure to like Canterbury Tales. I believe I even looked at Moby Dick, just flipping through the Cliff Notes because it was right next to me. And, you know, I was not in the age group where that would have been in my school reading yet, at least not in that format. I think I actually didn't get to Canterbury Tales, even sections of Canterbury Tales, until later. But yeah, I used to go to that reference section. I actually used to get a little bit, not quite miffed, but surprised when anyone would come back into my room.
I used to read back there. It was quiet.
Well, that's why I went there, and usually I was by myself. And you knew where to find me.
Yeah, well, you would have been in trouble if I didn't know where to find you.
But yeah, that was my area. But yeah, that was most of my reading that period. Agatha Christie, and then mostly Agatha Christie.
Well, if you're talking about that area, I've already mentioned some.
Yeah, because you went a little bit ahead.
Yeah, because a lot of times I didn't have the option to pick out things on my own before that. With the biographies and all that kind of, my parents made sure we read biographies and fiction.
When did we start the illustrated classics, Mom?
Probably about the same time, because I was just going to say that.
Because I was going to say, I know you guys started, because I do have some memories of the illustrated classics, too.
I read a lot of illustrated classics. You know, I'm talking Three Musketeers and Man in the Iron Mask, Moby Dick. Or I think it was Moby Dick. All those kind of things. I picked up Little Women around this time. Kim by Rudyard Kipling was given to me at this time. I didn't quite like it at that time. I needed to mature into that book. Then, you know, I started hitting, along with Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, Encyclopedia Brown, I started hitting Beverly Gray and some of these, a little, for us, I think Beverly Gray, well, it was American, I think, but it was one that was a little
She wasn't quite as popular.
Yeah, it was a little off the beaten path. I found her in a
I think she was
store.
older. I think she was pre Nancy Drew. Because you have her, and then I think before that you had Cherry Ames. Well, Cherry Ames might have been the same period. Who was the one before that? Because I tried to get Davina one of hers. I can't remember who was before that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one that was prior to them.
And actually, as a child, as a girl, I preferred the Hardy Boys to Nancy Drew. I still like Nancy. I had a ton of Nancy Drew, a ton of the Hardy Boys. But I kind of preferred the Hardy Boys. And I did enjoy very much Encyclopedia Brown. There's another one kind of in that type of book with the boys, and I can't remember what it was called.
Did you say Danger Boys?
Maybe, but I didn't read that.
Because I know that several different kinds came up when I was looking for things for Davina. But then past that age group, going into teenage, well, obviously I was still reading Agatha Christie. I picked up some of Mom's Star Wars books at that point. I think that's when I started reading Timothy Zahn's other works. I kind of discovered him on my own because I knew him from Star Wars, and I just branched out, starting with Angel Mass, and then...
Which I have never been able to get into.
We're going to read that together.
Yeah.
I love Angel Mass. I think you will, too.
I love his Quadrail series.
Well, yeah. Yeah. But after Zahn, as well as Zahn, we read Eddings we did together.
Eddings and
Terry Brooks.
Terry Brooks.
So
I love Terry Brooks.
David Eddings, which is actually a husband-wife team, and Terry Brooks. Now, I've mentioned in other videos my opinions on Eddings' writing, but that was something that was a big thing that I figure around teenage is a good time to stop because, this is about writers that got you started.
But for me, for teenagers, I started reading poetry, just not any specific.
I mean, I did poetry for school, but not show.
It wasn't any specific poets, but just poetry in general. I loved Frost. I think it was Robert Frost who did Roadless Travel.
That was one of the few ones that I actually liked, yeah.
And I also would read Anne of Green Gables and More Little Women and all those kind of books there. I didn't actually pick up little Agatha Christie till later. I wasn't really aware of it, but that's another video.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny that I actually, even though I read some of the things, like, I know I read Little Women. I know I read at least the first Anne book. But it took me a long time to move out of the mystery genre. I stayed pretty strongly mystery genre even through high school. Like, I really didn't start branching away until after. I mean, I did some of the sci-fi fantasy stuff in high school, but I really didn't start truly branching into other genres until post-college.
No, me too, because your grandfather tried to get me into Tolkien in 8th grade, and I just wasn't ready for that. I love Tolkien. I still have a hard time reading him sometimes.
Now, although you did have more diversity in that, like you read more of the Anne.
But I did a lot of mysteries. That was my mainstay. But like Sherlock Holmes, later on, well, that's something else. But Tolkien, I did start reading around 8th grade, but I had to grow into it. And of course,
I think it's around the time that you try to get to V and I started Tolkien as well, because that's maybe not quite as late as 8th grade. The movies came out when we were in DC.
Yeah, we tried to expose them as much as possible when we were homeschooling, but I'm trying to think the things that piqued my interest. I had very good English teachers in high school, especially my last 2 years. The woman was fantastic, and she got us into more like the Canterbury Tales and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. What's the other, Beowulf and things like that. So yeah, that's about. I don't want to go much further than that.
So yeah, that's just a taste of what really got each of us started. There are quite a few similar influences, of course, because.
Well, we forgot our religious influences, which same books. Same books.
But although those are things that I read, they weren't necessarily things that got me into reading.
True.
And that's more of what the tag is. That's things that I would have read, but not that would have made me go, oh, I'm going to become a reader.
Right. You're right.
Now, the second part of this, because we're doing a 2-part tag, reading books about reading tag. So like I said, this is a tag that I saw that Stuart Griffin did in conjunction with the Bookish Family Tag. So I thought that was a good idea, so I stole that idea from him. This tag.
And I have no idea what we're doing on this.
Exactly, which is amazing. This is created by Robert G. Reader of Books. First prompt is, what do you enjoy most about reading?
Okay, you can answer that or am I going to answer it?
You can answer first and I'll answer.
Okay. I enjoy most about reading, I think, is just the ability to relax and to experience something that's not every day. You know, just, I don't want to say escape, that's too strong a word, but just kind of to forget about things for a while or to learn something.
Yeah, if I'm doing fiction, actually, even this happens with nonfiction for me. It's just getting absorbed, like you're mentioning, in another world, meeting new characters. And I mean historical figures of this too. People who have watched my channel know that I actually will get emotionally attached. I've cried when historical figures die in the book.
I cry when fictional characters.
But the thing is, it's like I know the fictional characters, like, although I did do it when died in, but
are you making a distinction?
Yes, because if you don't know it's going to happen, you expect that shock value. You've gotten attached to this character, they died. I know that Dr. Rush was going to die. Dr. Rush lived during the Revolutionary War.
But he's not supposed to die in my book.
So I get attached to these people. I get angry on their behalf like I did for Washington Roebling. Or I get irritated with them because they're behaving terribly like Ferdinand de Lesseps. So I get very strongly involved with the figures or the characters, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. So that is probably what I enjoy most, is meeting new people, whether fictional or nonfictional, and just getting connected.
Yeah, we're very character driven.
Yes. What is the greatest benefit you get from reading?
Learning things and just relaxing. I mean, just de-stressing a lot of times. You know, just kind of, and if I'm reading something by saints or about saints, religious devotionals, things like that, giving me a new perspective on things and how to maybe work things out or be better at something.
Sometimes a fiction can do that as well. So it can be all of the above. But yeah, the greatest benefit is the widening of worldview, whether that be by learning stuff, getting new perspectives in whatever, by someone else's life, or just simply, like you're saying, relaxing and getting lost in another world. Is there any other activity which gives you satisfaction similar to reading?
Writing.
That's what I was going to say.
Writing.
Because even though I don't write to the extent you do, the only time, because even journaling doesn't quite hit this, it's the getting, when you write, especially if you're a character-driven person, I think anytime you write, but you get, into that character, you get involved. And the only other time I can think of that, if you're not writing, it's when you're reading. Now, you can do this if you're someone who's really thinks a lot about characters, like when you're watching movies and stuff. But a lot of times you're writing stories in your head when that happens, and you're saying, like, why did they behave that way? So you're building a story while you're doing that. So I agree. Writing and reading are very tightly intertwined.
The only other one that I can say maybe that sometimes does that for me is music. Especially something like that has a story behind it. I've actually had pieces of music inspire things that I write just because of a mood or a line or a series of lines.
Even though granted, I'm not a musician, even though I love my Broadway musicals, they don't even quite hit the same. They'll get me there a little, close, but it's not quite the same as writing will.
Yeah, and I don't mean something like that. It can't be something that already has stuff written to it. It has to be something different.
Okay. Do you have a dedicated time each day or specific days of the week set aside for reading?
No.
Same here.
I can't do it. My day. No.
It's just when it happens.
It's not possible. Yeah.
5. Do you have a dedicated amount of time each day for reading?
No, but I hope to get more dedicated, because I have several books I want to read during March and during Lent, and I need to be able to get them all in.
I like Dr. Gorgas' idea of reading 20 minutes of each book that because he used to read a science book, a history book, or classic, and a light fiction. And he would go, that day, he would read 20 minutes of each. So he made sure he read a little bit of everything, got a wide. And what I like about that is he also made sure he had his relaxing fiction.
Yeah, you have to.
Because he was working at the Panama Canal trying to take out yellow fever and malaria there. So he was doing some intense work. And he made sure that he had that release valve.
Yeah, you have to have that break.
Okay, so number 6, what is your favorite essay or book on the joy of reading? And it's okay if you don't have one.
I don't think I have one.
Now, I read a lot of critical examinations of reading. I read a lot about, I'm currently reading about the book it's called How to Read. But
I have that book, I think, or wish listed.
I have read an essay that I really enjoyed, and it went through the Velveteen Rabbit and how it looked at, first of all, how its themes, and then connecting that somewhat with the afterlife, like some of the visions people get with near-death experiences. Because I think it was called like the near-death publication. It was like a magazine with that kind of focus. And I found that to be quite interesting. I enjoyed it. Now, it covered a little bit. It wasn't so much on the joy of reading itself. Everything that I'm mentioning is kind of like ancillary to, like, it's peripheral to that. But it kind of like all is touching a little bit. I have books that go on that. I just haven't read them yet. Okay, what is your favorite quote about the joy of reading, if you have one?
I don't have. I
didn't prepare her.
Yeah, I draw a blank there.
Now, I do have one, and it's the only reason why I have it to mine is because I read it recently. Love this. To Kill a Mockingbird. And I have it tabbed, so. There we go. Here we go. There it is. Okay. So, it's actually a section, and then it leads on to the quote. The teacher says, "Your father does not know how to teach. You can have a seat now." I mumbled that I was sorry and retired meditating upon my crime. I never deliberately learned to read, but somehow I had been wallowing illicitly in the daily papers. In the long hours of church, was it then I learned? I could not remember not being able to read hymns. Now that I was compelled to think about it, reading was something that just came to me, as learning to fasten the seat of my union suit without looking around, or achieving 2 bows from a snarl of shoelaces. I could not remember when the lines above Atticus's moving finger separated into words, but I had stared at them all the evenings in my memory, listening to the news of the day, bills to be enacted into laws, the diaries of Lorenzo Dow. Anything Atticus happened to be reading when I crawled into his lap every night. And now here's the part that I really love. Until I feared I would lose it, I never loved to read. One does not love breathing.
I like that quote. I remember reading that to me.
Yes, and I actually read it in a video that I'm going to release later about To Kill a Mockingbird. It was a quote that the leader of our book club, Zoom book club, highlighted. She's an English teacher, and it is one of my favorite ones, and it was fresh to mind because I just finished reading it like 2 months ago. But yeah, that is the end of this tag. I will tag people below the video. I do want to mention, because this actually made me think of it, I too was read to a lot, both very small, and also my dad read to my sister and I up through teenagers, because that was his time of connecting. Mom would do all the homeschooling stuff with us, but Dad had the time before he went to bed. So that would be things like, some of the earliest ones I can think of were, what's it called? And that's the end of the story.
That's the rest of the story.
That's the rest of the story. There are books similar to that.
The one about virtues.
Yes, I don't remember. It's called the Book of Virtues, I think.
Yeah.
Then there was, I do believe he did Encyclopedia Brown. I think that's usually when we read Encyclopedia Brown, actually. Now, later on, we did Of Mice and Men, we did The Pearl, Animal Farm.
You did a couple of DeWall's books. One of them Daddy stopped.
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
Because he gave me the spare back because you want you to read that. But
We also did quite a few of Roald Dahl's books. I remember doing, that was actually, I think that's the only way I've ever done, darn it, the one with the giant, the BFG.
Right. BFG,
I think that's the only way that I ever experienced the BFG, the witches.
Not the giant peach.
I think we did the giant peach. I actually am not sure if I've read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory other than having it. Now, I have read Matilda, actually read Matilda as well as him reading it to us. So we had quite a few books because that was his dedicated time with us. We had quite a few books that we went through.
And then I read you what I was writing.
Yes, yes. And that's actually how I always wrote a little bit, but I didn't let her read my writing until after, and this will be the anecdote that we will probably end this video on, is that she was involved with a lot of writing groups, including an online place that had a 500 club, and she would read me things that people wrote not only in other groups, but this group. And I was in high school, and I wanted to get her opinion on my writing, but I wanted her honest opinion, and I feared that
always honest.
I feared that she would have been too nice because she would have not wanted to discourage me. And when I mentioned it that way, you admitted that, yeah, you probably would have tempered it a little bit because for just that reason, you wouldn't have wanted to discourage me. So I ended up, without letting her know, signing on to the site, because I knew what the site was, under because everyone had their different handles.
Yeah.
And so I chose a handle and a name that were completely something that you wouldn't have thought of, because
I forget what it was.
It wasn't Teal, because you knew I used that elsewhere. I don't even remember what I used, but I used that, and it was really cool because when she would read other people's stuff, we would talk about the writing, where it was good, where, it could improve, we would talk about it. And it was really cool when she would choose to read my stuff to me, and then she would give her opinion. It was really awesome to be laughing inside, of course, because I knew she didn't know she was reading my stuff to me, to just sort of see that she liked my stuff, not knowing it was me writing it.
I was honest about it.
Yes, exactly. In a way that you might not have been to the same extent.
But I wasn't, but my point is I wasn't shy of showing where I thought.
No, exactly. And that's why I said, in a way that you might not have been had you realized it was mine.
Well, my favorite part of that story is my mentor.
Yes.
Asked me why I was writing 2 times under 2 different names. He thought I was writing both.
Yes, which was absolutely funny, because why would she do that? I mean, if she wanted to write again, there was no stipulation. You could only write to the prompt once.
He got a kick out of that. He laughed so hard.
So, yeah, it was, I went quite a while before I decided to do the reveal, because I was having such fun with it, and it was just really cool to get that unadulterated opinion. But my dad's coming home. This is a great point to end the video. Thank you very much for joining us for this book tag. Hope that you have a wonderful day, and we will see you again next time.
Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye.
Books keep coming home with me, piles so tall they're all I see. Turn a page and sail the sea. Reading always feels so free.